I'm Dana Ivey. I'm on the board of the New York chapter of ARCE, American Research Center in Egypt. I am going to introduce our wonderful speaker, who I've had the pleasure of traveling in Egypt with, Dr. Lanny. He received his BA in Egyptology from the University of Chicago and his PhD from the University of Pennsylvania. He taught Egyptology at the University of Pennsylvania, the University of Chicago, and Brown University. He retired from the University of Chicago in 1996 to become an independent scholar. He is currently a fully tenured Associate Professor Emeritus of Egyptology at the University of Chicago and a visiting researcher in Egyptology at Brown University. His areas of specialization include divine kingship, the temples of Thebes, and epigraphy, on which he has published extensively. He's directed 5 field seasons for the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, and 12 seasons for the University of Chicago's Oriental Institute. He lectures widely for the Archaeological Institute of America since 1971 and has accompanied numerous Egyptian tours. This coming March, he will be lecturing for the Oriental Institute in Egypt, and it will be his 63rd tour since 1973. Tonight, Dr. Bell will be speaking to us on reading divine queenship in New Kingdom Egypt. Please help me welcome Dr. Lanny.
I'm an expert in Egyptian kingship, and suddenly I want to have access to Egyptian queenship, divine queenship. And so this will be the first time that I've ever given this lecture, and that's partly why you're getting the handouts, because many of you may not be able to remember what the names of the queens are that I'm talking about, 6 of them, and who they were married to. All right. So this is a slide that would very well represent divine kingship. At the same time, it represents queenship. So these monstrous things up here are, of course, Ramses, and then at his knee length, you have Nefertiti there, Nefertiti there, and his mother is Mutui, who we're going to talk about, is represented there. So the king is the big guy. But what about the queens? He rides around in a divine boat, like the gods do. And so here he has his crown, and he has shade fans and so forth. He is a deity. The queen, and this of course is Tutankhamun on his golden throne, the queen, Ankhesenamun, is ministering to him, and she is doing it in the guise of the goddess Hathor, while he is the goddess, the god. Never mind that the Theophilus up there. That he is the solar god who would, when that was working, would have been Atum, but in the meantime it comes out to be Amun-Ra for the most part. Now, when the king died, he reached a higher level of divinity than he had in life. And this is a scene involving priests offering to King Amenhotep III and his wife Queen Tibi. But it is from the Ramesside period. It's late 19th or early 20th dynasty. So when, even under circumstances like this, because this priest is from a line apparently of priests who have ministered to the cult of Amenhotep III. So they both get to be represented together. She has the Hathor crown, and he, of course, has the sun disk over his head. Kings are divine by being golden like the sun. So, whoops, that's a loose finger. Lots of the funerary objects that are found in the tombs, is made of gold, because gold doesn't corrode, it doesn't, it glistens like the sun, it shines, and everything else. And the Egyptians apparently thought that it had the ability to bring you back to life. So the king and queen are represented in human form, that's anthropomorphically, in which here you have Tutankhamun, and there's a bit of argument about what's actually going on here, but let's pretend that they represent both the king and the queen on the same scale at Karnak. He is Amun-Ra, and she's an obscure, not to me, but to many people, consort of Amun, who's Amunet, which means the female Amun. This is the first of the real divinity of the queen slides. This is Amenhotep III in the tomb of Kerawat at Thebes, west bank of the Nile, followed by the goddess Hathor. There's the box with the falcon inside it and the Hathor horns, followed by his wife, the Queen T. Now, he is being addressed by anthropomorphized Ankhs and Wasp symbols, and these are the tall single plume ostrich fans. And they are saying that he is a living, a mobile god. And he's in a sanctuary, they're all in the same sanctuary. This is part of his Jubilee festival after 30 years of reign. So here he is, being embraced from behind by Hathor. So he's Ra, she's Hathor. And then Queen T is not a third wheel. She is united with Hathor. The Egyptians don't know how to tell us, other than making them both conjoin. That this T is really a form of Hathor. He also has these peculiar things that are sticking up from his kilt. And they are, I'll tell you what they are. They are the tail feathers of the falcon Horus. So this is a symbol of his divinization and his divinity from the outset. But we'll see those plumes or those tail feathers again. So the king appears both as a human being smiting an enemy. Smiting is a good word. And then this is the andro-sphinx, the sphinx with a human head, who's trampling down another person from a different ethnic group. This sphinx has the wings of a falcon, the tail feathers of a falcon. They're not delineated the way that they were with the original carving. And he has a fan over his back, which means that the Spirit of God, the soul of God, has fallen upon him. So this is the wonderful thing from Tutankhamun's tomb. You have the fan, you have the crown, you have the panther in this case, you have the wings of the Horus falcon, you have the tail feathers of the Horus falcon, and he's doing it to both races at the same time. Now, T in the same tomb, in the tomb of Kerawat, is represented in a drawing on the side of her throne, represented as a trampling female sphinx. Otherwise, she has the fan, she has of course a different crown, she has the wings, she has the tail feathers, and she's trampling down two people from different ethnicities, but they're women. So while he's trampling down the men, she's trampling down the women. And just as men would be tied back to back here, then so the women are tied back to back, and then they can be trampled down below. She's depicted several times in this Sphinx incarnation. This is it's a sard. It looks like carnelian, it's a sard, a cut sard, showing her as a winged pharaoh, and in her own temple, where she is a deity, at Sudan, in the Sudan, she is also represented as a mythical being, a hybrid being. Now, the thing that makes anybody king or queen is the royal cow. This is an example, a very early example, 13th dynasty, and it's in its own little shrine. It was originally clothed. It had a loincloth around it. It's holding, but they're gone. It's holding an ox sign in this hand and a staff in this hand, and on top of his head is the ka sign. That's for hieroglyphs. Now, you have to get used to Egyptian art. So rather than having this on top of your head, saying something like, I give up, it really goes down like this. You have to rotate it 90 degrees. But the Egyptians could never have looked at the ends of the fingers and told what it was. They want to show it in 100%, all possible views. It's kind of Picasso-like. Now, this is another very important, perhaps the most important role of the Egyptian queen. She is to become the mother of God. So Amun-Ra, who is described here as being Thutmose IV. So Thutmose IV has been taken over, his body's been taken over. He's incarnated now in the god Amun-Ra. And he is going to impregnate his human wife, who's going to become a god, who's becoming Hathor. And these scenes are represented in three separate cycles. And I'll probably be showing you mixtures of it, so don't worry about trying to read the hieroglyphs. But this is the mother of the next king, and this is the father of the next king. And so what they're doing is they're sitting on a bed, a conjugal bed, which is really the sky. That's the way the Egyptians write the sky. And then two birth goddesses down here are supporting them, and they're just distracted by whatever they're doing. And so it even tells us, point blank, that Amun-Ra made his form as the majesty, the husband, there's the proper part of the husband, of this queen, Thutmose the fourth. So we get a view of what's going on inside the womb, where the creator god, Khnum, and the goddess Hathor are creating two little figures on a potter's wheel. So they started with a ball of mud, and then they created these little figures. And one of them has his index finger. Egyptian babies suck their index fingers. And then behind him is another figure that for all the world could be his twin. And for a long time people thought that this was a twin birth. But the reality is that this is the human or physical bodily part of this group, and this is the ka which is inhabiting him. So again, you don't expect to see the ka overlapping or whatever, but that's where it is. So now we have the story. It's rather exhaustively represented, where the secretary of the gods is coming to greet the queen and tell her that she's going to become pregnant. She's going to become the mother of God. So this is the angel annunciating to Mary. Now here we have representation of the queen as her pregnancy is beginning to show. This is also over here on my. In these representations, you never have a literal representation of a birth, but you've got these two figures here, the physical and the spiritual. physical and the spiritual, that are being presented by various gods to Amun-Ra so that he can state clearly that he is their father. Like in the Bible, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. He has to confess that those are his children so that they can step into line with him. Then they get put into the ancestors here, male and female, but these are the ones which are represented as males. But the shrines on top of their head represent that they're representing the female side of the family. So we get the queen over here, we get the wet nurses, and we get the fondling by the ancestors to incorporate everything, and of course we wind it up with Hathor sucking with the queen being suckled by Hathor. The whole story gets mixed up with the Horus and Seth myth. So this is from Edfu Temple, at the very back of the Menisi, the birth house, and here is the mother of the next king. I mean, the gods and the kings get mixed up here. And you can see the papyrus because she's hiding him in the marshes so that his evil Uncle Seth won't be able to find him and destroy him. So this is the Moses in the basket motif and the Herod trying to find the baby motif. This continues right down to the very end of basically Egyptian iconography before the Romans, that means. And so here is a baby who's been born. Here is his mother. And she is suckling him. He has an Uraeus already and the sidelock of youth. He's holding the shepherd's crook. He's holding the people of Egypt sign. This is Darius I, the Persian. Down to the Persians, Darius was much better integrated with the Egyptian beliefs, and then it goes down all the way to the brother of Alexander the Great, which I'll show you right here. So here we have the cartouches say Philip, 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 and these are like reading a cartoon, a comic book. The king, Philip, is being introduced by the god Mantu and the god Atum before the god of the messenger of the gods, Thoth, who in turn introduces him to Amun-Ra, his father, who turns him around and puts his hands on the crown. This is the laying on of hands. This is the transmitting of the powers. And meanwhile, behind them is another representation at the same time of the baby at the breast of his mother. So until the Romans come, they manage to do things on their own. This is what happens all the way down. Now, the sun is a very important element in all of this. This is the figure of the goddess Nut at the temple of Hathor in Dendera, and she is not blowing a bubble but swallowing the sun at night. It goes through her body. It gets born again in the morning. So she is, as only females can be, the mother of that particular god, which is all-ranging. On the roofs of kings and tombs of kings in the Valley of the Kings, you get the same kind of thing, but you can't see it all at the same time, or if you could, you couldn't understand it. So here is the goddess swallowing the sun. The sun goes through her body with the stars, and then the solar road is heading in for it. The more complicated thing is up here, where we get two boats heading prow to prow. That is, it's about time to turn the form of the god that's been in the boat by the day into the god of the night. So, Bing Bing. And this is the two goddesses playing with the football, with the basketball. They are handing the early morning sun over into the form of the early evening sun. And the scarab, of course, is a symbol of birth and rebirth, and the baby sucking his thumb, or his finger. The Egyptians show us the birth position. So the Egyptians are sitting on, we don't see the brick or whatever she's sitting on, and then the head of the baby and the arms of the baby are coming down from here. Now this is the only Memisi that showed the birth of the baby. I'll show you what's missing in a minute. So here is the mother of the sun god. This is the attendant. These are the ladies that are going to catch the baby. And then you get everything symbolizing the rising of the sun by this scarab, beetle flying up, pushing the sun in front of it. There, you wouldn't want to be giving birth to that baby. This is how that scene has been damaged. And in Tutankhamun's tomb, we find this pectoral, which says Neb Khepru Ra. That is Tutankhamun, and it looks exactly like that. So this is Tutankhamun having been born as the sun in this representation. All right, now that's basically kingship. Let's move on now. When Steve Harvey was here, he showed us some of these pictures. There is Queen Hatshepsut, who, by the way, took this particular cartouche name, Mankara, when she was being regent for Thutmose III. So she can be a sphinx too. Now, fortunately, the French have produced for us the drawings of fragments of stones which were found at Karnak, I think, in the third pylon. And they put them together. They've actually started rebuilding them in the outdoor museum at Karnak. So here is Thutmose II. He is the half-brother of Hatshepsut, and she marries him eventually. And he is offering here cattle. Then here's a picture of her from the actual stone itself, which is on display in the Luxor Museum. So Hatshepsut, she's got the ka on there, so she's already in the Egypt period. She has been manipulated. She's been manipulated because Thutmose II didn't live to reign very long. And so when he died, she played with the iconography, and nobody was supposed to know that she hadn't always looked like that. So they've added this fan, like the one that's over the Sphinx, behind her, saying that she is a divine being. And she is just following him. She's not making offerings with him, but she's active with him. Then here is another one of these things. He is definitely dead by this time. And she is following. She's destroyed her, but that's not for any venom. She's just been knocked with her. And then between them are Neferu Ra. So she is the mother of Neferu Ra by Thutmose II. And she wants to begin to insinuate her daughter into the line of kingship. And this guy, Thutmose II, is dead. So here she is, from another part of the monument. She is standing in front of, and she also has some hieroglyphs that really mean that she's like the sun god as well. And then on the same scale as Hatshepsut, we get Neferu Ra. And here again are the photographs of this scene. in a building that may represent a cult shrine, we get Thutmose II himself being crowned by Isis and Osiris. Then over here we get Seth and Nephthys, who are crowning Hatshepsut. And then down below here, we get Neferu Ra stuck in here, all on their own, same scale as the gods, in which the god Amun and the Hathor-like cow god are honoring her. So Hatshepsut was a very clever person. She had very clever priests, and she managed, unbelievably, to rule with two kings, with her husband, but only very briefly. I don't think she was actually ever ruling with her husband, but she represents it, and with his son. So Hatshepsut here is in the Luxor Museum. She's got the Mat Kara, so this means it is during the co-regency period. She's got the Hathor plumes, and she is making an offering of wine, it says, to Amun-Ra. But she is represented as a woman. This is the very early stage where she suddenly realizes that because kingship is not meant for women, she needs to emulate a man. She didn't have any breast surgery or anything like that, but just in these iconography. So when Thutmose III decided to make himself the sole ruler at the time that she was actually ruling with him, taking care of it, the regency and the co-regency. So he cut out all of her figures. They're very neatly, like a kid with a coloring book, but you can see her, she's gone. But many other places, you can find Hatshepsut. Here she is again being united with Amun-Ra in the shrine. And here she is, all Mat Kara, so she's definitely on her own kind of. And then the reason that this survived because it had been used for a filling inside a pylon. So Akhenaten never got a chance to do anything with this. Poor guy. Now, in Luxor Temple, these are not from Luxor Temple, but in Luxor Temple, and I'll show you a picture of that, we discovered that there are representations of Nefertiti, with her characteristic crown with the Aten rays, on ships, probably the queenship, who is holding by the hair, like T did, but in the trampling scene, so that she's just about to dispatch this wretched woman. And then in this fragment, which doesn't belong to the other piece, we get Nefertiti as a smiting human, Nefertiti as a trampling sphinx, Nefertiti as a smiting woman, and there are 3 hulls, cabins of boats overlying each other here. So the queen is now doing everything strongly as the king might have done. Nefertiti, of course, appears alongside Akhenaten in many places. This is a representation. Well, it's not the same thing, but a representation it's Ramosa. And here we have National Geographic representation of what it means to be doing this. So she accompanies it. Here we have a wonderful reconstruction of a monument at Karnak before Akhenaten went to Amarna. And it's in the Hoot Benden. The Hoot is a temple of, and the ben means anything that's sort of obelisk shape and represents the sun. So in this reconstruction, as on the fragments which were reconstructed, then you don't see anybody but women making offerings before the sun rays. And it turns out that it is Nefertiti, who is the daughter of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, as well as Nefertiti. Now, who is the wife of Amenhotep III and outlived him, is represented taking part in the cult of the Amun at the Aten, and here she is just down sitting in a family group, sitting with her son. And of course, her son has been hacked out here, but she was left alone. So here are some more things, but it's Ankhesenamun and Tutankhamun. So here it is, arm up, arm down, a little piece of gold foil, a piece where she herself is wielding the sickle sword, the scimitar, and this is in the representation of the barge of the queen towing the bark, also the bark of moon. So queens can stand up and support their husbands. So this is the restoration stela, it's in Cairo Museum, of Tutankhamun when he left Amarna and came back and confessed that he had done some bad things by ignoring the gods. And so he set this up and advertised that he was doing good again, and the gods were favorable and everything was going to be all right. These are because in modern times they've tried to break up the stone because it didn't mean anything to them, and they could just use it in this way. So here we have, and it's all been usurped by Hormuzd. Here we have Tutankhamun offering before the goddess Mut and the god Amun-Ra. And notice where I'm pointing that the stone is kind of roughed up on both sides. It doesn't show very well here, but it shows a little bit better here, and they've done some hieroglyphs over there. Now, Nefertari is, from my point of view, has gotten the greatest showplace to illustrate herself. Here she is with the goddess Isis. She looks like Hathor. Never mind, they all get mixed up at this point. The words spoken by Isis. Then she says, "Come with me, O great queen Nefertari Mary and Mut, to your tomb in the necropolis." So when you see the incredible monument of Ramses II, but it's also got Nefertari in it, at the site, but we have to look at it now, then you can see, as opposed to the first view of the facade of the Great Temple, that she is represented at the same height as her husband. And this thing I'm pointing to over here is unfortunately very badly smashed, so it wouldn't do any good to try to reconstruct what's actually there. But it calls her the one for whose love, which means for the love of whom, the sun rises. So in this great temple, this small temple so-called of hers, why then she is becoming very close with the sun. So all these are a symbol in either the rest of them in the small temple or the great temple. Here's the king smiting. Here's Nefertari behind it. Here's the king smiting. Here's Nefertari behind it. And she is beloved, the mistress of the two lands, beloved of the king, joined with the sovereign ruler, the sovereign king, in performing his duty, helping him with his duty. So she has become one even with Ramses. Here the two of them together now. In the New Kingdom, we don't see queens usually offering in conjunction with the king, offering before the goddess Weret. So she can stand at attention when he's fighting. She can offer with him. It's significant that she's shaking the sistra. Here she is from the courtyard of Luxor Temple on the back, the interface of the first pylon. They won't let you go on the east side, but on the west side, you can't really see it anyway. So these are drawings done by the Documentation Center. So she is here shaking her sistra and her minute, which is a kind of rattle. So it says she is using the sistra before his face, and he's followed. That is the god, and she calls the god that she's speaking about as her husband. It's mean, but it really is a form of boundary. And then over here, she is shaking the sistra, two different scenes, for her husband. And here she is shaking the sistra for her father. So the queen now, the big queens, the great queens, the really strong queens, they get to be called mother of the god, and daughter of the god, just as the king is called son of the god. So she's taking over, not the way Hatshepsut did, but anyway, she's taking over for her husband. So here we have at the Ramesseum, here, and over here we have at Luxor Temple, on the west wall of the court. Then again, she's actually got sister here, just as this one is over here. She makes it for her father. And the one from the Ramesseum is fragments from the birth cycle, the conception cycle have been found in this place, and she is unified. There's Nefertiti here, and here's Mut-Tui. Mut-Tui is her mother-in-law, and both of them are saying that we're shaking these rattles for you, so in front of you, our father. Now, Nefertiti in the Great Temple is offering to the figure of the goddess Hathor of Ebshek. Now she's shaking the sister, and this time it's then to her mother. Ebshek, it's important here because there is something the king can really do and something the queen can't really do. She is called Hathor, the mistress of Ebshek, and Ebshek is the holy mountain in which the Great Temple is excavated, carved. And here she is offering in the Great Temple also, before the goddess of Hathor, the lady of the mistress of Ebshek, drawn in a photo. So it is the Hathor of Ebshek as well as Isis who are crowning Nefertiti. They are, I don't know how many other representations there are of queens being crowned by gods, even queens being crowned. And that's to balance the coronation of Ramses II when the god Seth and the god Horus of Meha is the site of is the name of the holy mountain in which the Great Temple is built. So she's doing everything with him. At the very back of the temple, before you go into the area where the niche is, you find the queen offering to Hathor, the king offering to Hathor. They're both right beside each other on the wall. But again, she is offering before the local goddess, Hathor, whereas he is offering to the Hathor of Thebes. So he's in the main part of the country, and she's allowed to be along the fringes. Here's another example where he is offering this still that symbol. So he's over here and she's over here, and he is offering before the three Horuses of Nubia, Mia, Baki, and Buhin. And she is offering before, they're the big national gods, she's offering before the triad of Elephantina, which is a local cult. And in the at the end of the procession, the king, Ramses, is adoring or honoring, incensing, pouring out holy water before the deified king and the deified queen. So this is Ramses, who has the horn of Amun as well as the solar disc, and she has the Hathor crown. So at this time in Egyptian history, the queen is really very powerful, and she gets to show it. She gets to show it. I mean, many other queens are powerful too, but they aren't shown offering before gods and things like that. So this is I hope not too confusing, and gives you some insight into the carry-on from Steve Harvey's lecture at the very beginning to the end of the 19th or into the 19th dynasty. So I thank you very much for your attention.
Go to our reception, so let Lanny take it away.
Yes, Anthony?
I'm just wondering if there's any evidence of continued, of the level of queenship at this level in the later period, or is it exclusively during the empire?
You have to get down to Cleopatra for that.
Before that, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame, of course. It's a whole different ballgame, of course. But following Ramses, we actually do have a queen who is buried in the Valley of the Kings. But it's a pitiable little thing, and we don't have much information about it. So it's these big representations in Deir al-Bahri and at Abu Simbel and various other places that we have to rely on. And I assume that these are anomalies, but I wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else? Then we can have a reception.
Thank you very much. Join us.